So to get started on this one, the first thing we want to do is just make sure that we've got our spelling correct on this one and double check the reactions that we're getting inside of the scene. So we'll go ahead and move our box over. We've got it set to jump air. We'll hit play. There we go. And the Goomba is going to be moving in that direction until he gets his state changed back after that hop. And it's something that we want to start looking at. How can we correct something like that? We want to be able to go in there and say, let's do something about that. Let's make it so that he doesn't just keep bouncing until he changes state. So what we want to do is remember the state that we're actually in so we can go back to that state. So we've got an option up here that we established earlier for a current state. This is just going to simply hold the current state that the Goomba's in. And where do we want to put that? Well, we want to put that in each one of the functions that we have here so that it can remember the state that we have. So let's go into here, and on the patrol right, left, etc., we're just going to do our current state. And we're going to have that equal what? We're going to have that equal the Goomba state. We're just going to copy and paste this one. And we'll put this one into our patrol left. We'll put this one into our idle right and our idle left. And then when we get down here to our jump, well, the jump's a little bit different because inside the jump, we want our Goomba state to equal the current state so that we can get it functioning the way it needs to be. So let's, in here, we'll go ahead and make our Goomba state equal our current state. And let's just copy and paste that one for our jump right and our jump left. There we go. So let's go ahead and make sure we've got that one saved out. We can come back over. Let's give that one a little bit of a test. There we go. So you notice he did the trigger event, and then it reset his state, so he just went back to his regular move in the direction that we wanted. There we go. That's how we want it to behave properly. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is just, let's test this out a little bit more. Our jump override. Let's turn our jump override on. Let's hit play, and let's see if we can get him to really jump high. There we go. Now in that case, you notice how he jumped twice. It's because he jumped outside of that trigger box, and then he went back into the trigger box. So he was actually entering the trigger box twice. So in that kind of case, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now, just as a kind of a way of showing what you could do with this, for instance, let's say we were to take some of our pieces, and let's move these guys up a little bit. We could take our path node, and with our path node, let's set that path node up right in here. So that we've got some forward progression here, and then we're going to try to get him to jump up there on that platform. Oh, almost had him up there. Let's say we increase his jumping just a little bit more. Maybe up to 12. Maybe we can move this guy under it just a little bit. There we go. There we go. We get our Goomba all the way up there. So just like that, we can use these little trigger boxes to really move our characters throughout the environment and have a little more control and create a sense of logic to the Goombas inside the world. Our last little piece of the puzzle that we want to do for tying off the path node is we want to make it a little more visible. Right now, if we click on it, the only way we can see where the path node is by selecting on it. But we want some sort of gizmo inside of the scene that lets us know that our path node is here and our path node is here, here, here. To do that, we're going to be looking at a onDrawGizmo function, and we're going to be making a script to handle that. Alright, so to do that, let's go ahead and close these out. And inside of our script, we're going to go ahead and make a new JavaScript. And we'll call this JavaScript our showGizmo. Now, with the showGizmo, we'll go ahead and load this one up. And what are we looking for inside of here? We're looking to be able to load in an image that we can display as a gizmo. And then we're looking to draw that gizmo to the screen at that location of a path node. So let's start off with our header. We'll get that written up real quick. So we're basically looking at a showGizmo helper. The description is basically to help display the location of the path nodes that we're creating inside of the scene. Are we going to be placing our gizmo instructions inside of the update function? No, we're looking to place our gizmo instructions inside of an onDrawGizmo. So let's go ahead and make a function. Or in fact, let's just use our software the way it's designed. And let's see if we've got our onDrawGizmo. So we can look for our onDrawGizmos. There we go. And what we want to do, we simply want to draw an icon. So if we look to our gizmos, dot, draw icon. And what are the instructions we need for this one? We can see that we have a location, vector3, and then a string, and a string is simply pointing to the image that we want to use. So we'll say the position is going to be the position of the game object this component is attached to, so it's going to be our transform position. Our transform position. And our string is going to be the texture image that we load up. We could go ahead and set this up as a variable that we drag and drop into the script, which would be a nice way to go. So let's do that. Let's do, our image is going to simply be a image gizmo dot name, and we're going to be pulling up the name from the image that we're going to load up. And we need to set up what we're going to load, so we'll do a variable. We'll have our image gizmo, and this is going to be a texture. So we'll have a texture file that we load into here. And that's really the only thing that we need to load into it. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. And let's double check inside of Unity, make sure we don't have any errors. If we don't have any errors, we can select on the path node. And on this path node, we can drag and drop our showGizmo. And the showGizmo, you'll notice that down here, it's saying that an instance to the object on the path node. What we need to actually do is we need an image. And that image we can pull into it. Now you'll notice that we don't have a gizmo folder. Now if we're going to use gizmos, we actually need a gizmo folder to store that variable. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and we'll call this one gizmos. And in that gizmos folder, we're going to drag and drop a icon in there. So here we've simply dragged two images in. We've got a icon for a waypoint that's a 64 by 64 and an icon for a default. So in case we don't have an image loaded up, we can have a backup that gets loaded instead. But we'll go ahead and start with, this is our basic first. Here we go. And if we take a look over here, we can see our gizmo being drawn inside of there. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to do more than just the one image, but set this up with a little more logic so that we don't necessarily break it. So let's set it up to do a conditional and check for a little more information. Let's say that, what if there's not an image gizmo? Then what we could do is load up a default image. So we'll say, well, gizmos.draw icon. We're going to draw it at the transform position. And we're going to draw what? We're going to have to say specifically the icon default. So we'll say the icon default. Else, let's draw what we do have loaded up in the image gizmo and by its name. Okay, we're going to save that one out. And let's double check this and see what we've got set up. And it looks like we've got a little bit of an error right in here. Let's make sure we have our semicolons where they need to be. Simple little mistakes. And a close. Alright, that should get us cleared up. There we go. So with that, we've basically tied in a script that allows us to work with the gizmo image and set that up inside the viewport. Now, in the event that you might have some sort of error showing the gizmo, one thing you may want to make sure you do is we can keep the gizmo folder in the overall folder structure so that it can read to that package. You can actually take it back and forth, get it to show up, but this way we've got a default icon that shows up if nothing's shown, or we can go in and load the icon waypoint and have that showing up for us. So we'll go ahead and set that one up with the other path node. We'll go in there and let's grab up our script for the show gizmo, put that onto our game object and set up our waypoint. So now we've got some nice information on the screen that lets us know where those waypoints are at, and we can also see that inside of our gizmo for our gameplay mode as well. Alright, so that's going to do it for getting our character around, setting up the path nodes, setting up some icons to represent those path nodes, and getting our character moving around with a little bit more logic so we can have some fun with him. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is look at actually interacting with Mario and the Goomba and figure out how we can get Mario to jump on top of this Goomba and actually do some damage to him.